Jiga Khalsa, Wagujiki Fatte. Welcome everyone to Positive Minds, a brand new series which we're going to have on the Sikh channel. And we'll be talking about many aspects of how we can make our lives better and find happiness and fulfillment. Today, to start off this series, we're going to have a special topic. We're going to talk about a special topic which is very close to my heart, and that is mental health. Okay, I've had my own issues throughout the years regarding mental health. And many do. You know, every day we get carried away. Sometimes we have our frustrations. We all suffer from depression, anxiety. So today I've got with me a special guest who will be giving us some great advice. Okay, so I'd like to thank Mr. Ameet Malhotra for coming on with us today on the Sikh channel. Sat Sri Akal, Ameet.
Sat Sri Akal, Jack. Thanks for having me on the show today. What a great thing that you're doing.
Thank you.
Because it's such an important topic and one that gets really left behind in our community. So
Excellent.
When you first come on, I just thought, what a brilliant opportunity. So thanks for having me on. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. You're welcome. Okay, so Ameet, please tell us your current role amongst the community. What is your position?
So I work as what's called an interpersonal psychotherapist. So it means I help people with depression, but also help them with other kind of what we call common mental health problems, anxiety, depression, that kind of a thing. Also, I do assessments in the community, so people might call me and I try and work out with them, you know, where they're at with their mental health, what kind of therapy might be suitable for them, and what kind of work that they want to do, what's going to help them most. So I try to work out, you know, kind of where they're at, but also I help treat people as well if they are struggling with depression.
So you're a qualified psychotherapist, Ameet, yeah?
Yeah. I do something called interpersonal psychotherapy. That's exactly what I do. Yeah.
Okay, so from the top,
I was going to say it's a very common therapy that you can get on the NHS.
Excellent, brilliant, excellent. So, I mean, starting from the top, what is the importance of maintaining mental health and well-being? Yeah, what is the importance? Why is it so important to have excellent mental health?
Well, you know what? It's a really good starting point to think about. Well, why is it important? And I think there tends to be a lot of discussion about physical health. You know, we talk a lot about our physical health problems, and it's not really on the same part as our mental health problems. So let's say with physical health problems, you know, you break a leg or something, so then you go straight to the doctor, and then the doctor says, do this, and then you normally follow that. They say, put your leg up for 6 weeks, and you listen to that. But with mental health problems, what tends to happen is we think, I'll be all right, and it'll sort itself out, or we ignore it. But actually, you know, how much of a link is there between what happens to us physically and what happens to us mentally? So a very simple example for this is to think about, so there's a lot of studies that have been done with people who are suffering from pain, long-term chronic pain. And what we know is that if you're feeling depressed, the pain tends to be a lot worse. Mm-hmm. So there's some real questions about the link between physical health and mental health and giving it the same level of importance in our daily life, because they both play on each other, but we tend to be much more comfortable talking about our physical health problems than we do about our mental health. So, but you know, taking really good steps for your mental health, wow, what can that bring? Peace of mind, happiness, joy. So it's not just about just living, but really thriving in life and really, you know, achieving your goals, achieving the things that you want to be able to do. But, you know, if we've got anxiety, we've got depression, we've got, you know, other common mental health problems, it makes it much harder, doesn't it? It makes life more difficult. So it's really important to think about those things.
See, the thing is, I mean, you hit the nail on the head there. You said that many people think about pay more attention to physical issues than mental issues. Now, I've always found, Amit, that it's like obviously there's alcoholism in all different cultures, but within the Asian culture, I found that many people, when they come across an alcoholic, it's like hataja, stop drinking. You got to stop drinking, and I've seen that all throughout as I've been growing up. And that's not the cure. The cure is that person needs to go and get some rehab, get some proper treatment, go through the process, and then obviously they get better. Yeah, okay. Well, they fight to get better, and they get there. Now, again, with mental health, I mean, it's a bit of a hush hush issue amongst the Asian community. If someone's sitting there or not eating properly or not or feeling depressed, it's like, well, come on, get yourself together. You'll be all right. Just snap out of it. But the reason I've got you here today on Positive Minds, Amit, is to say that that is not the case. Yeah. If anyone out there suffers from any sort of mental health issues, or someone knows someone around them suffering from mental health issues, they need to get help. And that's why I'm so glad that for the first show, I've got you on, because this is an issue that, as a whole community, we need to discuss. So, I mean, to the next question: what are the different forms of mental health issues that anyone can have? I mean, because they different effect lives, because they all get issue in here.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a few things that you've raised there which are really important. One is about, kind of what happens in the community, like some of the issues we might know about, things like alcoholism, we know. And what's really important is that we can name it as an illness. Like, 'cause if somebody says to you, "Oh, Bas don't stop drinking," but the thing is, what we need to recognize is it's an illness, and it needs the right kind of treatment. Like a broken leg, we need the right kind of treatment. So, um, it's all very easy to say, look, just stop, but it's a proper treatment that's needed. So it's really important for us to think about the different types of mental illnesses that there are.
Yeah.
And this is something I think is really important, especially in our community, because one of the questions I have is, do we have the language for it? Do we know how to describe the different types of illnesses? And that's an interesting question, partially because, does the fact that we can't talk about these things, that we can't explain what they are or know about them, does it lead to this kind of stigma that we can't talk about it? Because what words have we got? And maybe that's worth us thinking about. What kind of words have we got? Do you feel comfortable talking about mental health in Punjabi? Is it something we can do? So that's one of the things. But there's a whole range. And the other thing that can happen is that we can get all mixed up with the different types of mental
Sorry, I
illness.
mean, can I just go back to that, right? So, I mean, can I just go back to that, what you're just saying there, right? It's like only the recent generation, right, has been able to say, oh, well, depression ho gaya. Okay? Now, depression, what you're trying to say is there's no such Punjabi word for it. There is no language. Oh, munde nu thoda anxiety ho gaya. Yeah? I mean, again, I can't see. You're right. Munde nu mental health problem ho gaya, or depression. There is no categorized words to describe them. And that is a good point, I mean, you put there. But rather than saying words like that, the only word I can come close to is the word bargain. And that's not the case, because that bargain word is such a depressive, such a negative word. And you are so right what you're saying there, because in our culture, we need to use the words such as mental health issue है गया चलो मदद करिए जाके मुझे depression होया वो ठीक नहीं रहेगा चलो doctor दे जाइए. Is that what you're saying, Amit?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And that's there's a common thing that gets talked about, the word bargo, because what does it mean literally? Crazy. And you're either crazy or you're not, right? But that's not the case, is it? With mental health,
it's not the case. No.
It's much more subtle than that. There's a whole different range of illnesses, and some of them can be very, very mild, like anxiety or depression, very mild and very common. Probably 1 in 4 people will experience anxiety or depression at some point in their life. But then you've got a whole other range of
1 in 4 people. That's quite. Sorry, I meant 1 in 4 people. It's a quite high day, isn't it? It's a stat, isn't it?
1 in 4. Yeah, 1 in 4. 1 in 4. 1 in 4. And that's probably a little bit higher in our community. Probably a little bit higher.
So, do you think it's higher in the community because many people don't? Sorry, I mean, is it higher in our community because you think many people don't talk about it? And it's the same thing as the alcoholism. They see the person who's depressed in the house, so like, going to tea gorge, you know, going to tea gorge. Is that the attitude you think?
It's complicated, isn't it? There could be some of that, but then there's also the factors that we've experienced. We've had to leave our home countries, come here, especially like our mum and dad's generation. They left and they've come, and there's all the kind of difficulties of moving, migrating, all the experiences that we have, adapting, all the experiences that we have growing up in this country. So they can have an effect, but there's things that we can do about it. But naming it, beginning to talk about it, are some of the first steps that we can start to do. which can have a positive impact on us. So I think it's important to recognise. And there's also things, have we been able to deal with it properly? Has there been enough support available? But things are changing, and that support is available now. So it's worth resetting the bar on this, because things aren't the same that they were 15 years ago. They're not the same. The help that's available now is totally different. So we've got to catch up as a community and start saying, okay, well, hang on, the help's
You,
available. Let's
yeah,
get some of it.
yeah. You say, I mean, that help is available, and that's the reason why I've done this program on Positive Minds Review is because there is a large abundance of help available out there. Okay, but many people don't know it's there. And they don't know how to approach it, especially a community. So that's why I've got you here first to talk about this. And I've always found, right, that I mean, discussing mental health issues within the Asian community, right, to be a bit of
Yeah,
a taboo subject. Yeah,
yeah,
it's a taboo subject where people don't really talk about it. When they've got someone in the family who's suffering from depression, or which koi khanda nahi piya changi tarah, koi school nahi janda changi tarah, koi kam te nahi, chup rehanda all the time. He's always quiet. People kind of like don't know how to approach these kind of situations. Do you find that in the Asian community that is the case?
yeah. And I think there's a few things that go on. One, there's the shalom. There's a lot of people feel a lot of shame about
100%.
talking about their mental
It's
health
perfect.
issues.
Yes.
I think that's partly to do with the language and understanding. Especially if you think about the word bargo. What will people think? You know, what will happen in the community? What will people say? But actually, when you realize how common these issues are, and we can begin to challenge some of those ideas that maybe actually it's just like any other illness that we might experience. Would you ignore it if it was a broken leg? No, you wouldn't. But with these kind of things, we think, okay, let's just sweep it under the table. Don't really want to talk about it, you know. But what you didn't realize is it's a common thing, and actually, there's lots of help available, just like there is for a broken leg. But are we getting it? Is my question. Are we getting it? So there's that kind of level, but then there's also perhaps maybe a lack of trust in the systems and support systems. Who's going to find out? Is it going to be confidential? So I think there's a lot of worry about that as well. But just like we would go to the doctor and say to the doctor, look, I've got this problem or that problem, you trust that process that it's confidential, you know. And it's the same thing if you're accessing other support. It is confidential, but we're just beginning to find our feet with it and beginning to trust it a bit more. So I think that's another issue. Um, and and there's also just the fact that we're not in the habit, we're not having enough discussion about it yet. There's still a bit of a stigma around it. So
And
that's
then that's why I
partly
mean
why
that's why I've got this show on. That's why.
yeah, that's right. Because these are things that, as a community, we can begin to address. We can begin to challenge and say, look, hang on, do things need to be that way now? Does that still serve us? Does that help us to achieve what we want to do as a community?
Excellent. Because I mean, so I personally have suffered from mental health issues in the past. Yeah. So I was not eating properly, not talking to people, not associating with people. I just want to be left alone. What do you think are the signs of someone? If someone's in the house with a family, and what kind of signs can they see or note that will make them think that wait a minute, this person needs help or support. They're going through mental health issues. We need to, what kind of signs would you say that they need to watch out for?
Yeah, I mean, the signs and symptoms that you're talking about, that they're all there. They're all very common. So, maybe feeling down or finding it hard to enjoy things, or
Chuparanda all the
overeat,
time.
overeating, or maybe you're losing your appetite, or uh, tiredness, no matter how much you rest. So people might spend a lot of time in bed, not want to get out of bed, that kind of a thing. They all might be signs that something like depression is happening, or if you feel really bad about yourself, if you're blaming yourself all the time, if it's hard to concentrate, um, or might come out in other ways. Maybe people start drinking more, or eating more sweet stuff. All those kind of things
So
can be a sign.
you, you're sorry. I mean, so also alcoholism can be a sign of depression as well.
But alcohol is definitely a symptom of depression. Um, or actually, when I say alcoholism, I think what I really mean is kind of alcohol misuse, when maybe people are using it as a way to make themselves feel a bit better.
Excellent,
So quite
excellent. So I mean,
often,
we've got 2 minutes left. I mean, so I'm going to go on to the next question. How can how can we speak or help someone who is suffering from these issues? What are the best steps to take?
well, I guess when you speak to someone, being kind and compassionate, they're the main things. Understanding that it's an illness, and it's not about blaming someone, because they'll have enough of that going on. They'll be blaming themselves enough. So being kind, compassionate, and encouraging them to open up to someone, listening,
Yeah,
without judging. Quite often we want to give advice straight away, but actually just listening. So one of the things that happens, if you are struggling with depression or anxiety, is that you can feel very alone, very isolated. The other thing that can happen
excellent.
is that you stop taking care of yourself. There's two main things. You stop taking care of yourself, and you might feel very isolated. So anything you can do to interrupt that with somebody, so let them know that you're available, that you're there, that they can turn up. They may not be ready to come and talk to you, but letting them know they're there can help to hopefully interrupt this feeling of isolation. But also encourage them to do things that they might have stopped doing. Maybe they used to do a bit more exercise, they stopped doing that. Maybe they stopped seeing their friends, so encouraging them to do that. Because all those things, like if you've got depression especially, that's what it feeds off. It feeds off you not doing things that are going to make you feel good.
Yeah, good
And
thing you say that,
there's
Amit, because sorry, I'm going to interrupt you. Good thing you say that because I remember when I was suffering from depression and anxiety many years ago. I found made my own techniques up of how to come out of depression myself. And one of the main techniques I found for myself was to actually self improvement, find something I can work on, whether it be training, whether it be a project, whether it be a book or whatever.
yeah,
And that kind of like took me away from the depression. And up to me, that's been a bit of a cure. And also to always keep myself busy doing things, associating. And you hit the nail on the head there as well. It's the caring part as well. Like sometimes giving your loved ones a hug, or if someone in your family is a little bit quiet, just go to and speaking is very important. Speaking to,
yeah,
and we rush about every day, going our jobs, coming home, doing a roti, barney in the house, and everything. Sometimes you can get so mixed up in this that you need to find that time where you sit down with your children and say to them, "How's things? Is everything okay?" Yeah, and that's the other part. And what about professional help? What kind of professional help can that? Now that's a big. This is a big one. Many people in the Asian community, I mean, find it hard to go to the doctor and say that I'm not sleeping, I'm not eating, I'm not, I'm not socialising. What would you say is the professional help that can be offered to these people who are actually going through these issues and they're struggling?
yeah. I mean, going to the GP is a good starting point. Um, and they can certainly refer you on, but also these days you can refer yourself to some support as well. And there's also some good support available just within our own community as well, who people have set up support services. So that reminds me, I think I've put together a little list of some of the services that I've done a quick search for. So maybe if there's a way of getting that out to the viewers, or maybe tweeting it or something, we'll do that. There's a whole list of web addresses and stuff like that, which
Yes, I mean I'd like that list and I'd like to tweet it out. But have you got any emergency numbers they can call or anything they can contact with people they can contact for help?
yeah. So if things are in an emergency situation, that's a little bit different to needing therapy. Okay, so if you're in an emergency situation, call a GP, call 111 if it's out of hours, call the Samaritans, a very good service. I think their number is 118 123. They're a listening service. People are never alone. There's always somebody there. There's always somebody available to listen. If you need to, if things are really dangerous, nobody wants anything to happen to you. Go to A&E. There's always a team there as well. Just as there is if you
Or
break
just
your leg,
walk
there's
into
a
the
team
A&E and just say, can you please support us? Yeah.
there. Yeah, there's always a team there. And then if you need to, if things are really serious, call 999. Don't hesitate, because it's an issue in our community. It's an issue, and people are never alone. So there's always help available. So, and the sooner you get help, the better.
Yeah, because I mean, as I said to you before, I wanted to do this as an episode first on Positive Minds because I want people out there, just like community, ਸਾਰੇ ਬੰਦੇ ਹੈਗੇ ਆ ਕਿ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਮੈਂ ਦੱਸਣਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦਾ ਕਿ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਕੋਈ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕਰਦੇ ਹੋ ਸਫਰ ਆਪਣੇ ਆਪ ਸਫਰ ਕਰਦੇ ਹੋ ਡਿਪਰੈਸ਼ਨ ਐਂਗਜ਼ਾਇਟੀ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਖਾਂਦੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਪਏ ਚੰਗੀ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਨੀਂਦ ਨਹੀਂ ਆਉਂਦੀ ਚੰਗੀ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਇਹ ਸਾਰੇ ਰੀਜ਼ਨ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਆ ਕਿ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਕੋਈ ਪ੍ਰੈਸ਼ਰ ਹੋ ਰਿਹਾ ਕਿ ਸਮਥਿੰਗ ਯੂ ਨੋਟ ਹੈਪੀ ਅਬਾਊਟ ਤੇ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਮਨੀ ਪ੍ਰੋਬਲਮ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਆ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਰਿਲੇਸ਼ਨਸ ਪ੍ਰੋਬਲਮ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਆ ਯਾਰ ਕਿੰਨੇ ਪ੍ਰੋਬਲਮ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਆ ਪਰ ਯਾਰ ਅਮਿਤ ਨੂੰ ਮੈਂ ਅਸਲ ਲੱਗ ਕੇ ਆਇਆ ਅੱਜ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਕਹਿਣ ਲਈ ਕਿ ਆਪਾਂ ਉੱਥੇ ਮਦਦ ਹੈਗੀ ਆ we're lucky I mean something you said there about the Samaritans we're very lucky that we live in a country where we can get 24-hour support doesn't matter what time of night what time it is during the day or night we can always get support and I really find that excellent you know but I mean it's about picking up that phone and getting help isn't it
Yeah, it is. But also, those things are those kind of services. That's kind of more severe. But for the more kind of common mental problems that we might experience, depression, anxiety, they might not be that severe that things are that bad, and you may just want to talk to somebody about it, or find out how talking therapy might help you. And something that was set up probably about 15 years ago started in the NHS called improving access to psychological therapies. Now, before that, if you wanted to talk to somebody or go counselling, you had to go private. But for the last 15 years, you don't have to do that. And not everybody knows this.
Superb.
There's a whole national service called Improving Access to Psychological Therapies, IAPT, IAPT. And anybody, if they want to refer themselves for some counselling or something like that, you can just either go online or you can call up, just Google IAPT and your local area. On the links, I'll put in somewhere that you can just search for your nearest service.
Excellent.
And you can do that. And if you're not sure, then just call your GP and they'll have flyers and information about it. The other thing about it is that if English isn't your first language and you need some support, that's also there as well. You can get translators.
That's what I was going to say to you. I mean, sorry, I meant to interrupt you. That's another thing I was going to say to you. The biggest thing within the communities is that they English, general English, and that they feel very uncomfortable speaking to doctors about such issues. So, is there help available with interpreters in the hospitals who speak Punjabi, Hindi, etc.?
Yeah, absolutely. If you call the first time you call up, so my advice would be the first time you call up, just say, "I need a translator." Right? And just tell them,
Punjabi translator or Hindi or wherever, yeah.
Or get some, if you need some support, get someone to help call you for that first time, and then they'll set it up with a translator because that's all part of
it. And can they do that for the GP as well? Can they, Amit? Sorry.
Can they get a translation for the GP?
No. Can they find the GP up and say, "Well, can you organise for a translator at the hospital to give me a call?"
That's maybe more complicated depending on your GP. So that may be more complicated, but certainly with improving access to psychological therapy services, without a doubt, you can get a translator.
Okay, brilliant. I mean, okay, so we haven't got long left. I mean, I'd like to say thank you so much for coming down today, right? I mean, you come with some great advice. So what I'd like to say on Positive Minds here today, we've had Ameet Malhotra with us. And Ameet, one thing that I received therapy. I'm not ashamed of it, and it's one of the best things I ever did in my life. And I'd advise anyone to go out there suffering from any sort of issues to get therapy or to speak to experts like you. Just listening to you has enlightened me today more. As many years ago, when I was suffering through mental health issues, it wasn't a nice place to be. And as I said before, one of the best, even now again, when I feel a little bit down, a little bit frustrated, and we all do. We all do. No one can say they're invincible or strong or powerful. They don't get depressed. We get depressed over small things. Like, rotini banai, kamte jana hai, I've got a busy life, I've got busy work, I've got to go to the bank, I've got to do this. All these things sometimes can crowd your head in. And as I said, my personal way that I've come out of this always is self-improvement. I have a large set of goals, right? And I'm always adding to that list of goals as well. And I'd advise everyone out there that if they do feel a little bit bad or upset or sad, like Amit said today, walk into your GP and have a word with them. Please do not suffer in silence. There is help out there for everybody. Everybody out there, there's help available. And please do not suffer in silence. And self-development. Sit there and say to yourself, okay, what's my next goal? What am I going to create next? What am I going to go and do next? So sometimes the next goal can just be giving your loved ones a hug or telling someone you love them or someone you haven't spoken to for a long time, give them a call. Okay? So thank you everyone for joining me and Amit. Amit, thank you very much for today. Thank you for your great advice. Excellent, brilliant. And we'll see you in the next episode of Positive Minds. Thank you for joining and I wish you all the best. Waguchi Kakasa, Waguchi Kifate.